if somebody knew me for one day, for today.
Right. Your today's legacy. What would your today legacy be?
What would my today legacy be? That's a great question, and I am scared to death of the answer. Hello there. You're listening to the Girl Talk podcast, brought to you by our friends at Fox Toyota of East Tennessee. My name is Carol.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Trisha.
And we're glad you're here today. Thank you so much for joining us. What is your legacy? Woohoo! That's a deep question. We're going to dive straight into it. So I looked up the word legacy because y'all know I'm a word nerd. So I love words and their meanings because sometimes I think we say words and we don't really know what they mean. Or at least I do.
Truth. Or we make up words.
I love making up words.
Inconceivable.
Yeah. I love making up words. But legacy, as defined by Webster's Dictionary, a gift by will, especially of money or other personal property. Like, okay, you can see your legacy being left in, like, monetary possessions, right?
Sure.
But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what kind of legacy are you leaving for those in your life. And don't turn this podcast off if you don't have kids, because I don't have nothing to do with it. That was kind of ugly, wasn't it? Did I say that ugly? I didn't mean it ugly.
It's about your kids.
All right, okay. It's not about your kids. So I think we need to start with, because I had never really given this much thought, to be honest with you. But I think as I get older, I think of it more. So I think we need to start from the place of, what do you want your legacy to be? Like, when you look at your life, what do you want people to say? Okay, that was her legacy.
One of my favorite things, this sounds so weird, is to go to a funeral. I think funerals are so powerful because you hear the person's legacy and you see their legacy. I'm not saying I'm cheering for that, but when I go to a funeral and I see people standing up and saying what this person meant to them and how this person changed them. And it to me, it is one of the most powerful things. And I so wish that we didn't wait until people were passed on before we stood up and said what they mean to us.
Yeah.
And I wish we could do that. I know birthday parties sometimes get into that, but really it's so powerful to hear people coming together and talking about the legacy of knowledge, love, support, encouragement, faith that this person left them with. So that I often will leave a funeral so inspired, thinking what I want people to say at mine.
Right.
And I know that might sound silly, but
No.
I think it's so powerful to think about it like that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that you hit on a very good point. What do I want people to say at mine? And I think part of that is writing that ahead of time and writing down your own testimony. You know, there's all kinds of tools out there that you can get online and other places that will help you kind of write your own testimony. But if you think about, you know, what do you want people to say at your funeral? And then you write down some of that stuff about how God has worked in your life and how God has moved in your life, then those people who are talking at your funeral also have stuff to say, that some of that internal stuff that is about why you did the things you did, not just the things you did.
I think what you're speaking to here, because y'all know I'm not a planner. I'm working on it. I'm getting better at it, but I'm not a planner. I'm a fly by the seat of your pants kind of girl.
Creative.
Yeah, I'm very creative. But what I think you're saying here is that when you're in those moments of, like, what do I want people to say about me? If you give that thought and prayer and time to just kind of marinate on that, what you're doing is kind of working backwards from that idea and putting a plan in place to actually do those things.
Yeah.
If you want to be known for, you know, your blessing, if you're let's just say you're hospitable and you, whenever someone dies, you take a casserole to someone's house, then nobody's going to say that about you if you never did it. You always wanted to.
I thought about it.
Yes.
Like,
They're not going to make stuff up if you're an actual jerk.
Yes.
They're not going to make stuff up about you.
Yes,
When
we
you
could-
die and go, yes, she
were
was
very
actually not a
wonderful.
jerk. She was
Lovely.
wonderful.
Lovely. She was
Live
lovely.
like you're dying. Oh, there's a song about
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Live like you're
But
Want
I
a
think
legacy.
that's kind of
Not
what
a
you're
bull
speaking
named
of.
Fu Manchu. Sorry.
I think that's kind of what you're saying is like work backwards and
Yeah.
put a plan in
Yes.
place to
Right.
actually do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that where this breaks down is I think we all want to be known for some of the same things. We all want to be known for our love for God. We all want
Yes.
to be known for, sharing the gospel. We all want to be known for the way we encourage others. But if we work backwards from that, what are we actually doing in a practical sense on a daily basis to make that happen?
Do you remember that song that came out, I don't know, 2005, 2006, something like that, by Nicole Nordeman that was called Legacy?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure we played it here.
I think it was a lot longer than that. But
Well, whatever it was, it felt like it to me. So I wrote down some of those words because when
Okay.
you said we were going to
Yeah.
talk about legacy, that was the first I started singing because
Yeah.
that's what I do.
Yeah,
That's
music.
the creative in me. So here's some of the lyrics from that song. She says, "I want to leave a legacy. How will they remember me? Did I choose to love? Did I point to you enough to make a mark on things? I want to leave an offering." A child of mercy and grace who blessed your name unapologetically and leave that kind of legacy. I just want to hear you say, "Well done, good and faithful one."
Yeah. That's
Do
good
we
stuff.
point to Christ? Do we
Yeah.
let our lives be a reflection of Him? And do we point others to Him, or is it all about our own glory and fame?
Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah. Good exercise. Good questions.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you put a plan in place for all that to happen?
I think daily. I think
I know,
daily, right?
So this for me was kind of like an aha moment because as I was thinking about this episode and coming up with some thoughts to kind of guide us, I was thinking about like what are the daily, because I've been on this journey because I'm a terrible planner and I'm trying to get so much better at it. And I ordered this planner that helps you plan things so that you can be a planner, right? But not for just the sake of planning. What I found is that even though I am a creative, if I will put some structure in place,
Yeah.
I am able to be more creative more frequently because the details of whatever I need to get done, I keep on a daily basis. And I look at my week and go, okay, this worked, this didn't work. And I can look at those things. So what are the practices that we put in place in order to live out the legacy that we want to get to at the end of our lives, which we don't know when that is. So,
Well, that's a good point.
And I
Yeah.
do think it starts like what Tricia said earlier with thinking about your own funeral and what comes after that, of meeting Jesus face to face, or actually
Sure.
probably what's come before that. But
Yeah.
you've met Jesus face to face. What do you want Him to say about you? And how does that line up with how your life is now? And
Yeah.
doing some real hard reflection, because I think if all of us really stopped and thought about that, God would point out some holes in our lives and the things that we're not doing.
Lovingly.
So I have to tell y'all, we had this thing with our church where you did a spiritual, I think it was called a spiritual gifts inventory or something like that. It was, but anyway, what it did was you listed out your spiritual gifts, and then somebody who knows you well, which is my teenager, right? She filled it out for me.
Oh, boy.
Like how she thought I was doing on it. Don't ever do that, by the way.
that seems like
Or
a
if you-
rough idea.
If you'd like to borrow my teenager so she could tell you, but I was like leveled at the end of that. She was like, oh man. But it wasn't so much critical things. It was just, this is how I see your priorities from someone who is the closest person to you. And I was a little shocked at some of the things that she thought I valued, but I wasn't like, I don't value that. I didn't go back to her like that. But it was like a reality check for me of, hey, these are the things that she perceives are the most important to me. And what do I need to do differently in order to change that up a bit and make sure that she knows the value of the other things?
Wow, you are just striking a bunch of chords in my heart right now.
Okay.
First of all, both of y'all are, but the first thought is, what am I doing today that would have Jesus say, "Well done"? Like what am I doing today? Like, what is it? My priority? Is it my starting my day with Him? What am I doing today that would cause that to happen? That's the most important. But then you also are striking a chord about how am I prioritizing the most important people in my life. Because you go to a funeral and, probably my tennis friends won't be at my funeral, or, and I spend a lot of time in tennis or at the gym, or, those people, maybe they'll swing by, but the important people in my life, my husband, my kids, my sister, those people that are so important in my life, am I prioritizing them so that they know that they are being prioritized? Because that is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Like the important people in your life need to know that they're the important people in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your legacy.
Absolutely.
That's your legacy.
Yeah.
And how are we spending our time, not just with the people, but in the actions?
Yes.
A gut check of, am I spending my time in ways that honor and glorify God, that show other people about him, that would make Jesus say, well done, my faithful one?
So I think, maybe I'm wrong in this, but the more I talk to people, the more I think we think that our schedule runs us.
Absolutely.
For
we
sure.
think that.
Like I have conversations with people, and God has really convicted me of this. I'll just be honest with you. Like, he's got a lot of work to do on me, but this is one of the things, like, when I say, gosh, we're just so busy, he's like, well, what are you busy doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we got this on this night, this on this. I'm listing off all the things, and I'm like, is any of that drawing me closer to you? And I'm sad to tell you that most of it is not. Most of it's running and doing stuff, And so I've been forced to ask those hard questions of myself, like, what am I doing to feed into this? What am I doing because our schedules don't just happen to us. You are the gatekeeper of your schedule.
It's choices.
Yeah.
And you are choosing. And so I've tried to not say I'm just so busy anymore. I've tried to use that word choosing, and it's hard to do. Like, somebody says, gosh, you look tired. I'm going to say, I'm choosing to run like a chicken with my head cut off,
Yeah.
Instead of saying I'm so busy, because I'm so busy sounds like we're important, and we're important. We kind of validate ourselves through that instead of being intentional about the things that we spend our time on, and knowing that our schedule doesn't run us, but we run our schedule, and we're making a lot of choices that aren't building us up, and aren't refreshing us, and aren't, I don't know, that's just me.
Well, and the flip side of that too is, if we have not chosen wisely, we might as well go ahead and say, Jesus, I chose not to spend time with you today.
Oh boy! Wow,
My son,
she's meddling.
My son, I
but it's
chose
true.
not to make you a priority in my life, and I chose to do XYZ instead.
Yeah. So let's go to the end of that. How many people are going to stand up at your funeral and say, man, she was the best unpaid Uber driver ever? Like, she was the best. She would take people places nobody's life has changed because of that,
Yeah.
And so I think you can do the opposite of what do you want people to say, but what are you doing? What would they say if somebody knew me for one day, for today?
Right. Your today's legacy. What would your today legacy be?
What would my today legacy be? That's a great question, and I am scared to death of the answer.
Oh yeah. Because then you have to come face to face with your choices.
Yeah.
I heard it said like this: you're never going to find time for the important things. If you want time, you have to make it.
Yeah.
You have to choose it, is another way of saying that. And I have to choose it. And there are all sorts of things I can do. And, watching Chopped on the Food Network is not going to be helping my today legacy any. And I think a lot of the choices that I make are for self-pleasure. Do you know what I mean?
It's interesting you mention that.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking, because there's nothing wrong with watching Chopped. Not one thing at all.
Kind of fun show.
But here's what I do, and maybe I'm the only one who does this, but when I think of because I was thinking about this morning, when somebody says, if somebody were to come to me and say, you have a complete day off, what are you going to do? You have a whole day. I would spend my whole day trying to fill myself back up with things that aren't making me more godly or more, I would probably watch Chopped. Right now I would watch basketball. I would read a book. I would not the Bible, just a book,
Fiction or some
You know,
sort.
to
Yeah.
kind of refresh myself, and none of those things do it, and that's why we come back to work as
Depleted.
depleted as we
Yes.
were when we left,
Yes.
because we don't use that time that we're given for the refreshing things that refresh.
Wow.
Stay
You
on your
just summed
toes.
up my weekends. You know, I think I can't wait to get to the weekend. And
Yeah,
I come in
so
on Monday,
true.
I'm like, I'm tireder than when I left.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to fill a void with like little self-pleasurable things.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, this is good. And none of that
Convicting, though.
is building my legacy
I
the way I
know.
want it to be built. Oh, it's
Right?
building a legacy, but is it the legacy I want built?
Yeah. And I think it's helpful to ask other people in your life, but you have to be ready for the answer, because the answer is not going to be what you think it's going to be. Like, people see things in us that we don't see in ourselves, and people see deficits that we don't see. We all have blind spots,
Yeah.
and but you got to be ready to hear that. You can't get offended. You can't get mad. If you truly ask the question and you want to know, and then you take that before the Lord and say, Lord, help me with this, because I don't see it, and I wasn't aware of it, but it's evidently a big thing. Because that's what it was when I got the results back. I was like, oh man, I thought I was doing better than that, and I wasn't. But I had to spend some time with the Lord over that, and just say, how can I change this or shift or make sure that I make the most of this time when I have. I mean, it's reevaluating those priorities. And the older I get, the more I do that. I don't think I thought about it very much at all when I was younger, but now I think about it all the time. Like, what needs to shift today so that I can be available for what God wants to do? Or what do I need to stop doing? Like, stop it. Like, that's not helping you.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look, thinking about what I want my legacy to be, I don't want my legacy to be about the things I did, but I want my legacy to be about the person I am.
Right.
Right. Do I show hope? Do I exude hope and joy? And do I love well?
Yeah.
And, what's my character?
Yeah.
And I know that our character kind of overflows into our actions, but I want at the core of it
Sure.
for people to go, man, she looked a lot like Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of times the things that we do make us look more like Jesus or not. Or me, if I spend time in God's word, I can't wait to get up and tell people what he's like. I'm like, oh my word, you're not going to believe this. Look what God did, or he speaks to me through a verse, or I get some new insight. I can't wait to share that. But other things that I do, like, I don't want to share that because it didn't fill me back up. It didn't. But I'll choose those things a lot of times because I'm tired instead of going to the real source of hope and encouragement and peace and life.
Mm-hmm. We just got to keep reminding each other of this.
Yeah.
And that's
true.
how we build our legacy, and that's how we help our friends and our loved ones build their legacies.
And here's what I don't want you to walk away from this podcast discouraged, because I know you can look at your life and you can ask somebody in your life and you're like, I'm missing it on every single front. Like, I'm missing it all. And it's too big. I can't do it all. And I think the hope I want to give you is that, number one, you're asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first step. That's the first right step.
Awesome.
And the second step is to just ask the Lord, what is my life going to be about at the end of it? And how do I get there from here? And what do you want to do through my life? Because that's why he's gifted you. And those are some of the, we talked about spiritual gifts not too long ago. That's why he's gifted you, to serve the body of Christ. And so,
and your scars give you purpose. So if you've made mistakes, like we all have, me, number one, that is actually something that Jesus can use as part of your testimony. That is your legacy, how he brought you from whatever happened to where he's taking you.
Good stuff.
So,
Yep. And tomorrow might be the last day. So do not
today
let it go one more day without thinking about what do you want your legacy to be, and are you living for him?
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Lots to think about. We'll put some of these questions in the show notes so you can go back and revisit them, maybe even journal about them, because I know they go by kind of quick when we're talking about them, but we'll put those in the show notes. Want to say a big thank you to our friends at Fox Toyota of East Tennessee. Man, where would we be without them? We could not do this each and every day. So
what a legacy Fox Toyota is leaving.
Know it. We love you,
Thank
folks.
you.
Appreciate you so much. And we appreciate you tuning in today for this podcast. And we'll see you next time we gather around these microphones for the Girl Talk Podcast.